this is Two Ladies Midwest Adventures. I'm Jenny, and I'm going to be reading Chapter 7, Part 1. I'm going to be reading Chapter 7, Part 1. A bitter winter. The stormy weather was followed by sleet and snow, and then by a hard frost, which did not break till we went into February. Carried on as best they could with the rebuilding of the windmill, well knowing that the outside world was watching them, and that even as human beings would rejoice in triumph of the mill were not finished on time. Outspite, the human beings pretended not to believe that it was Snowball who had destroyed the windmill. They said that it had fallen down because the walls were too thin. That this was not the case. Still, it had been decided to build the walls 3 feet thick this time instead of 8 inches as to be four, which meant collecting much larger quantities of stone. For a long time, the quarry was full of snowdrifts, and nothing could be done. Some progress was made in the dry, frosty weather that followed, but it was cruel work. The animals could not feel so hopeful about it, as they had felt before. They were always cold and usually hungry, as well. Only Boxer and Clover never lost heart. Squealer made excellent speeches on the joy of service and the dignity of labor. The other animals found more inspiration in Boxer's strength and his never falling cry of "I will work harder." In January, fell short, the corn rations was drastically reduced, and it was announced that 1 extra potato ration would be issued to make up for it. Then it was discovered that the greater part of the potato crop had been frosted in the clamps, which had not been covered thickly enough. The potatoes had become soft and discolored, and only a few were edible for days at a time. The animals had nothing to eat but chaff and mangles. Starvation seemed to stare them in the face. It was visually necessary to conceal this fact from the outside world, and boiled in by the collapse of the windmill, the human beings were inventing fresh lies about Animal Farm. Once again, it was being put about that the animals were dying of famine and disease, and they were continuously fighting among themselves, and had resorted to cannibalism and infant piss. I was well aware of the bad results that might follow of the real facts of the food situation were known, and he decided to make use of Mr. Wimber to spread a contrary impression. Hitherto, the animals had had little or no contact with Wimber, on his weekly visits. Now, however, a few selected animals, mostly sheep, were increased in addition. Napoleon ordered the most empty bins in the store shed to be filled, nearly to the brim with sand, covered up with what remained of the grain and meal. On some suitable pretext, Wimper was led through the store shed and allowed to catch a glimpse of the bins. He was deceived and continued to report to the outside world that there was no food storage on Animal Farm. Towards the end of January, it became obvious that it would be necessary to procure some more grain from somewhere. In these days, Napoleon rarely appeared in public, but spent all his time in the farmhouse, which was guarded at each door by fierce-looking dogs. When he emerged, it was ceremonial manner, with an escort of 6 dogs who closely surrounded him and growled if anyone came too near. Frequently, he did not even appear on Sunday mornings. That the hens who had just come to lay again must surrender their eggs. Napoleon had accepted through Wimper a contract for 400 eggs a week. The price of these would pay for enough grain and meal to keep the farm going till summer came on and conditions were easier. Then, when the hens heard this, they raised a terrible outcry. They had been warned earlier that this sacrifice might be necessary, but had not believed that it would really happen. They were just getting their clutches ready for the spring sitting, and they protested that to take the eggs away now was murder. Time since the exclusion of Jones, there was something resembling a rebellion, led by 3 young black minicours, pullets. The hens had made a determined effort to thwart Napoleon's wishes. Their method was to fly up to the rafters and there lay their eggs, which smashed their pieces on the floor. Napoleon acted swiftly and ruthlessly. He ordered the hens' rations to be stopped and decreased that any animal given so much as a grain of corn to a hen should be punished by death. The dogs saw to it that these orders were carried out for 5 days. The hens held out. Then they copulated and went back to their nesting boxes. 9 hens had died. 9 hens had died too in the meantime. Their bodies were buried in the orchard, and it was given out that they had died of coconitis. Wimper heard nothing of this affair, and the eggs were duly discovered. A grocery van driving up the farm once a week to take them away. All this while no more had been seen of Snowball. He was rumored to be hiding on one of the neighboring farms, either Foxwood or Pinchfield. Napoleon was by this time on slightly better terms of the other farms than before it happened. That there was in the yard a pile of timber which had been stacked there 10 years earlier. when a beach spinney was cleared. It was well seasoned, and Winter had advised Napoleon to sell it. Both Mr. Pinkton and Mr. Frederick were anxious to buy it. Napoleon was hesitant between the two, unable to make up his mind. It was noticed that whenever he seemed on the point of coming to an agreement with Frederick, Snowball was declared to be the hinding at Foxwood, while when he inclined towards Pinkton, the ball was said to be at Pinchfield. Suddenly, in the spring, an alarming thing was discovered by Snowball, was secretly frequently the farm by night. The animals were so disturbed that they could hardly sleep in the snow. Every night, it was said, he came creeping under the cover of darkness and performed all his kinds of mischief. He stole the corn, he upset the milk pails, and he broke the eggs. He trampled the seedlings. He gone the bark of the fruit trees. Whenever anything went wrong, it'd be usual to attract it to Snowball. If a window was broken or a drain was blocked up, someone was certain to say that Snowball had come in the night and done it. And when the key of the store shed was lost, the whole farm was convinced that Snowball had thrown it down the well. Curiously enough, they went on believing this, even after the key was found under a sack of meal. Cows declared anonymously that Snowball crept into their stalls and milked them in their sleep. The rats, which had been troublesome that winter, were also said to be lagged with Snowball. Napoleon declared that there should be a full investigation into Snowball's activities. With his dogs in attendance, he set out and made a careful tour of inspection of the farm buildings, and other animals following at a respectful distance. At every few footsteps, which he said he could detect by the smell, he snuffled in every corner in the barn, in the cow shed, in the hen house, in the vegetable garden, and found traces of Snowball almost everywhere. He would put in his snout in the ground, give several deep sniffs, and exclaimed in a terrible voice, "Snowball, he has been here. I could smell him distinctly." And the word Snowball, all the dogs let out blood-curdling growls and slowed their teeth. Were thoroughly frightened. It seemed to them as though Snowball were some kind of invisible influence, pervading the air about them in menacing them with all kinds of dangers. In the evening, Squealer called them together with an alarming expression on his face, told them that he had some serious news to report. And I'm going to stop it there as part 1 of chapter 7. Okay, where did I put that? That hair tie. Where did I put it? And well, I'm just going to use my blanket. the world a better place one person and one moment at a time. And like and subscribe so we can get to 1,000 subscribers so we can start baking. Okay, bye bye.